Hello everyone, and welcome to the stream. Hope everyone is good. We are back for more Tiny Bunny. It's been a little bit since we've played, but last we left off, it was a pretty major quick cliffhanger here at the cabin in the woods, or a garage in the woods. So let's click on that and get bet. An exception has occurred. Well, that's not good. There we go. Alright. We're getting right into it. I step toward the garage, holding my breath. And gave the sheet metal door a small knock with my knuckles. Knock, knock. And then jumped back. I heard rusty meat hooks jingle on thick metal chains, awakening someone huge who crawled to open the black gates. What was that? Nothing happened. Oh. Still nothing. Knock, knock. I hesitated to turn my back to the garage so I took... Run! I heard a weak, scared voice resound in my head. Stumbling all over the place, I rushed into the night that was swarming with shadows and ran behind the crooked trunk of pine, sure that Elisa was by my side. But after a moment had passed, I realized that the girl was nowhere to be found. Let's look at the backlog real quick. I hesitated to turn back to the garage, so I took a couple of slow steps back, unable to tear my eyes off the stench oozing crevice. I was about to call Elisa when... Run. Okay. The forest was mumbling its ancient chants. Squeaking, ticking, rustling. I froze. I didn't know how much time had passed before I realized that I was standing in complete darkness in a circle of trees that were shooting up their trunks into the sky. Everything was around me moved, trembled. My ears went numb from all the rustling. The treetops melted into the darkness of the cosmos. The brushes became empty cells, whose occupants were suddenly set free. It felt like a clawed fang and could fly out of the darkness into my stunned face at any moment. I heard a scream somewhere far away. Anton! Someone was looking for me. Just like that boy who went missing. Tears stung my eyes. A big drop fell from my lashes. Anton. The scream was closer now, and for a moment I even believed that I was about to be saved. I'm here. One of the trees moved. Whoa. It wasn't Ramka, nor was it Bayasha. And tall with long arms. Many shadows that looked like dogs snuck around behind his back, but those beasts were much larger than Zulka. The forest was dormant no longer. No longer it hid its face behind the fake masks. I stood still, like a deer pierced by the lights of an incoming truck, and the beasts all stared at me. In the semi-dark without my glasses, I could see very little, but it was still more than enough for me to freeze in terror. A foul smell of animal piss and wet fur enveloped the clearing when the creepy procession with the giant at its head moved toward me. My legs gave way because of fear, and I fell to my knees into the snow. It looked like I was praying to that figure, to the trees, to the darkness. I didn't dare lift my eyes, so when he got close, showering me with his stench, for a moment I thought that his legs were covered in gray fur. I shut my eyes so tight that red circles started dancing on the insides of my eyelids. I don't want to look, but I could still hear everything. His breath was akin to sandpaper that was scratching at my ears. His voice was deep, hoarse. No, it wasn't a voice. A roar. I finished my grandma's chant out of the pool of my memory. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, ashes. I got his stench and roaring in reply. Words could never protect against claws and fangs. I was helpless. And then I heard a familiar sweet voice nearby.
Come on, do it. Get a taste of him.
No. Something hot slid across my throat, like a meaty, sticky rope. Someone's tongue.
I told you, Master. He's our bunny. Please, take good care of him.
From the narrow embrasures of barely lifted eyelids, covered by my troubling fingers, I watched a horrifying silhouette tower over me. I was taking in the smell of kennels, compost pits, and moss. In front of me stood a scary horned beast with the presence of a monarch. His posture told me of his electrifying nobleness. His horns supported the clouds, and his popped-out lacrimas pierced my ready-to-pop eyes with a thorny stare. His hands were full of gifts. Candy fell to the snow, sparkling with its fancy wrappers, silvery packs of chocolate bars, and a chups sticking out from a snow pile with its plastic. For you. Candy rained at my feet. A doll fell nearby. Then it started raining toys, a spinning top, a teddy bear with a torn up nose, red-headed Carlson with a propeller, a tiny tin toy soldier with a flag, a firefighter truck, and a crop duster plane. The toys weren't covered in blood, but my imagination was painting them with red spots and crimson leaks all on its own. The horned shadow of the beast moved over the treasures that once belonged to unknown kids. To take. Hairy hands reached into the surrounding darkness, took out a mangy bunny mask that was haunting me, and forcefully put it over my face. Bunny. The shadows of beasts around us slowly and graciously stood up on their rare legs, and then light hit my face, shattering the monster's figure in two. I put my hand to protect myself. Flashlight's rays slid down. Anton? There you are. Are you out of your mind? What's this all about? I was staring at my dad, completely stunned, into the space where the monster was just a moment ago. The clearing was enveloped in darkness again, but I could still barely make out the outlines of toys and candy in the snow. And I'm sure if I was brave enough to get close to the bushes, I'd find animal prints there. Cat got your tongue? Your classmates came to us. They said that you ran away from them deep into the forest, and what the hell are you wearing? I pulled the mask down from my sweaty face and threw it into the heap of toys. Branches cracked in the distance. I pressed myself into my father's chest, engulfed by fear, and he started looking around, alerted, and spoke in a tone of voice that was much more nervous. Okay, let's get out of here. If your mother learns of this, she'll be so mad at us that we'll never forget this day. I reached out for my father, still feeling the chilling embrace of fear. I grabbed his firm hand and felt his quick pulse with my fingertips. Then stood up and wobbled along behind my father, following his barely discernible footprints. Back to civilization, back to light, back to the road where my dad parked his car. And not a word about this at home, got it? Don't even hint at where I found you. Alright, Dad. He was holding my hand as if it was the most precious thing in the world and kept telling me how afraid he is to lose me or Olya. But it wasn't that sticky like an animal tongue fear. His fear was a noble, crystal clear diamond, and I just nodded in reply and kept moving my feet. And then I heard a familiar voice coming from behind me.
Remember, as long as you're with me, nobody will lay a finger on you here.
The car sped toward our house. That was the hut. I pressed my cheek against the window and saw a short building among the trees, a shack darker than night. The garage that was hidden inside the thicket, a crypt made of metal. It almost felt like it was following us. A moment passed and the building disappeared around the corner. I gulped down my dollar. And the white snowflakes just kept dancing in the starry sky. Look what the cat dragged in. Mom was going down the stairs, piercing Dad with her trademark glare. Her face showed something between wrath and condescension. Suddenly her gaze shifted to me and stayed for a dangerously long time. Hey, what's this? Where are your glasses, Anton? Did you lose them? This dummy probably forgot them at school. A venomous pause followed. He's your son, all right. Dad glared at Mom and then mischievously winked at me, reminding me of our deal. Well, we have spare glasses, so we'll manage somehow. My parents stood in silence a bit longer, and then both of them went to mind their own business. Olya threw herself into my arms before I could even take off my coat.
I saw a fox.
Surprise akin to a shotgun blast. I could only flap my lips in reply. A cup shattered into many pieces with a loud thang. My mom let it fall from her hands. Her face was pale and her eyes were glued to the ground. This pause, just a split second, felt like an eternity. Then Mom spoke with disappointment. First it was an owl, now it's a fox. Will you ever get tired of this?
But it's true. She was so fluffy. She stood on her back legs near the hedge, just like a person. The fox called my name, but then Mom came and she fled.
There was no fox. Stop making things up. Don't go near her. If it was necessary, I was ready to shake my sister as if she was a doll made of cloth.
What's wrong, Tosha?
Don't go near her. You hear me? Mom entered the hallway and gave me a surprised look. I hesitated. Well, a fox will bite you. I remembered fairy tales where foxes used to kidnap children. I imagined my Elisa, liberated carnivorous, running through the night's forest with a dangling sack in her hands. It wasn't a real fox. Tell him, Olya.
She stood on two legs and she wore a dress. And she was real.
See? Mom showed us a tired smile, as if it was the only explanation needed. I also forced myself to smile. My smile was like a thin piece of soap, right before it dissolves completely on your palm. But when I was left alone with my sister, I whispered, "If you see her again, run." Thoughts of the forest beast bombarded me like a rain of candy and toys. There was a hairy silhouette staring in front of me, towering over the treetops. Who was he? What happened in the forest? What's happening to me? I shut my eyes and threw the vitamins in my mouth, washed them down with water. Please stop driving me mad. Please. I barely managed to force myself to do homework, but those math problems just refused to be solved. Numbers in my notebook tumble around and mixed in a whirling dance, sometimes running over the lines. My head became heavy from the pandemonium and I almost dropped it into the chain of numbers. My eyelids felt like there were tiny weights tied to them, the type used in grocery stores. And right at that moment, I surrendered and closed my notebook. The memories of my day started flashing before my eyes. I was in the middle of the stuffy school corridor. I could see the literature classroom from here, faces of dead classical writers on their portraits, the prim and regal pose of our homeroom teacher, Lilia Pavlovna, and around that corner was her daughter Katya, a snitch and a gossip eagerly waiting for me. Hey, transfer student. Transfer student. What do you want, Katya? She got up. She got on her tiptoes and started swaying, holding her hands behind her back, and then she asked me with a fake smile on her face. Can I ask you something? Why did you get transferred here? I might have told the truth about this to Polina, but Katya will sell it on the market for 3 kopikas. It would be the same as printing all my thoughts and hanging them near Vova's picture, for everyone to see. So I reverted to an answer I knew by heart. It's because of my parents. Dad has a new job here, and my mom, but Katya didn't even listen to me. She just rushed toward the perked up ears of her friends, whispered something while stealing glances at me. Yeah, right. He takes us for fools. I've heard it's all because of his father. He crossed the road of some big shot, and now their family is hiding in our remote little village. That's not true. You're lying. Oh, and did you hear how he hit Barbin out of the blue? What kind of freak must you be to start bullying your classmates from day one? Stop, you know he started it. And if that wasn't enough, there are rumors that he's hanging out with delinquents from Romka Piatifin's gang. Be careful with your bags, girls. I wouldn't be surprised if things start disappearing from our wardrobe. And we'll know who to blame, Petrov and his friends. Yes. Shut up. Look at him scream, as if something bit him. His pupils, look at how wide they are. I hope he won't go insane and resort to violence again. I mean, there must be a reason his mom always feeds him those pills, right? I just stood there in confusion, trying in vain to understand how she found out about my medicine. And what scared me even more was the possibility that her nonsense has some truth mixed in. Yes, that's right. He's as insane as his little sister. Can you imagine that she says a human-sized owl visits her every night? Yes. But not a single healthy person has seen it. And this simpleton believes her. Can you imagine that? And then I caught a single kind look from the smirking crowd. Is that true, Anton? Are you really? Are you unwell? Polina, please listen to me. Yeah, right. Don't listen to this liar, Polinchka. You don't even know that he cheated on you with someone not from our school. With Alisa. Paulina slouched as if someone kicked her in the stomach and then burst out in tears and fell to the dirty floor, wailing and screaming. No. Why her, Anton? Why? I couldn't understand her reaction, but I still rushed to Paulina's side before getting shoved violently by Katya. Get your paws off her, you monster! Rage was building up under the veil of my fear. It slowly rose from the cloudy mist. I felt my upper lip creep up, showing my teeth. The fact that your father beats your mother doesn't give you the right to do the same to girls. My fists became hammers. I couldn't unclench them. Nobody can speak about my family like that. I came to my senses when I already lunged at the angry Katya. Aha! He went nuts! Nuts! Help! Petrov went completely insane. At that same moment, the crowd around her became louder and it started whistling and roaring and growing. Oof. The subtle silhouettes of my schoolmates became larger, wider. They shot upward toward the ceiling, turned into a giant black forest, chock full of toothy faces. I shrank into a tiny ball of fur and started shaking in fear before the might of ulcer-ridden trunks that belonged to either trees or humans. It was impossible to tell. So you finally shown your true animal nature, coward. Katya's face twisted with jubilation and ecstasy.
Anton! Why her? No! What makes her better than me?
Paulina screamed while choking on her tears.
He is just an animal, an outsider.
A scary flapping of wings came from the forest. A pair of giant white ears descended somewhere from above, and I dug myself into them.
Anton! Anton!
Please.
Wake up!
I jumped up, almost falling out of bed. Apparently I was thrashing around for hours on the sweat-soaked sheets. Olya screamed, pulled me out, set me free from the tentacles of fear.
Anton! Anton! Please! Wake up! Wake up!
It took my eyes a while to focus on the silhouette near the window. Olya's voice was distant. My head was still ringing after the fight. Sounds got distorted as if my ears were stuffed with cotton. My sister, as distressed as ever, just kept on repeating the same phrase.
The owl! The owl! Please! I'm scared.
Her tears poured on my heart like boiling water, but I was almost thankful for the owl's appearance. Otherwise, this scared Olya wouldn't have woken me up. Wait a second, Olya. Want me to read Morzilka for you? A Soviet and Russian monthly illustrated magazine for kids. Published since 1924, magazine uses an unidentified yellow creature wearing a scarf and red beret as its mascot. Writers like Samuli Marshik and Agnia Barto contributed to the magazine earlier in their careers. Give me. I placed my bare hands on the cold floor. Felt around for my glasses, remembered Semyon, his underhanded attack, and sighed.
Anton! Please, please! Look!
She couldn't tear her eyes off the window as if it was a staring contest. I found the light, switch with my hand, the lamp poured bright light all over me. I got up. My vision fooled me, moving the window closer only to push it farther the next moment. My sister was just a blurry spot. I took a hesitant step forward. Olya? What's there? What happened? Do you want me to open the curtains?
No, please don't. The owl is here.
The voice was coming from behind. I turned and froze from terror. Teary-eyed Olya stood in the doorway.
Who are you talking to right now?
She stared at me with eyes that were red from crying and her hands wrapped around her shoulders. Her voice was nervous as if she was afraid to hear my answer. I was talking to you, to someone who pretended to be you. The ledge outside my window creaked ominously, as if something... Alexa, stop. As if something huge was sitting on top of it. And then the thing that pretended to be Olya started spreading, changing shape, growing to scary heights under the light of a carnivorous moon. Anton, please. Come closer. Come here. The voice didn't belong to my sister anymore. The thing that was hiding behind my curtains got tired of pretending. making me look like a fool. I pinched myself as hard as I could, hoping that the silhouette near the window was just a continuation of my nightmare. A hallucination brought upon by the cursed house. And those don't bite, do they? The silhouette was towering before me under the veil of mist. I heard Olya's shrill scream when someone had knocked on the window.
It came to get us.
Another knock. I stepped back into the middle of the room, as if there existed nooks I could hide from this horror. The sound was sharp, metallic. The lamps started shimmering, then it suddenly lifted the whole room and went out, like a candle in the strong wind. The filament inside it snapped with a ringing sound. The darkness that was waiting for that exact moment poured from all angles and enveloped me. There was only this window left in the whole universe. Moonlight poured through it, painting everything in the color of bones that were exhumed from a crypt. Nice visual. Olya started squealing and pressing herself into my back, seeking protection. And then an eye, burning with a carnivorous fire, stared at us from the window. Knock, 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 knock. No, it wasn't trying to break the window. It was toying with us. It just kept on knocking, driving us mad. As if a giant clock was measuring the time left for us, its pendulum swinging above the abyss.
Go away! Get out! Shoo!
She was screaming in desperation, her hands clutching my arm like a pair of pincers. Anton? Anton? Come closer. I could barely make out a pair of wings that spread out above the black spot.
Tell her, Anton. Tell it that I won't be a bad girl anymore. Never ever. I just wanted to leave. Please.
The moonlight suddenly disappeared and the room descended into darkness. We couldn't see the burning eye anymore. I swallowed the stingy lump that was stuck in my throat. I stepped toward the curtains, entranced by the call of this disfigured guest. Olya staring behind me, mumbling,
I'll be good, I'll be good, I'll be good.
The bleak window was creeping closer. Curtains rustled. I reached out to move them aside so I could look my fear in the eye. At that moment, I heard noise coming from our parents' bedroom. Without thinking, I pulled the curtain to the side in one swing. Nothing. Though there was something shining on the ledge, among the scattered feathers. My glasses. Huh. And then you can see the footprints too. The ones Semyon took from me. How did they get here? Was that a gift from the gurgling night? Did that owl really bring them back here? I looked at the front yard, at the foreboding clearing, at the toothy forest. Not a soul. Not a trace of our late-night guest. Only the old lampposts dreaming like a lone watchman among the snowy desert. The dry window frame creaked. I tore away the insulating tape and the stripes of glued newspapers. Window insulation. Before plastic windows became widely accessible in Russia, the cracks in frames of wooden windows were filled with cotton or pieces of cloth and sealed with self-adhesive tape or strips of newspaper soaked in soapy water to conserve heat in winter. Interesting. Opened the window with big trouble. Frost pinned me with its little needles. The paintings on my walls moved from the draft. I touched my glasses, sure they wouldn't melt in my hands, but they were real. My brain was scrambling for an explanation. Semyon and his gang just pulled a prank on me. That was it. That's it. A smooth white blanket was glittering under the street lamps just outside our yard. If anybody was to get close to the house, to climb the pipe to the ledge of my window, they would surely leave footprints. But there were none. I cautiously took my glasses. My wrist was still intact. Nobody pulled me into the darkness, full of restless writhing. Why aren't you in bed? I swayed from surprise, almost fell out of the window. Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind? Did it feel hot in here? Do you want to catch a cold?
The owl's here. Tosha chased it away.
Go to your room immediately and get in your bed. And you. Mom paused, directing her seething eyes at me. She was thinking of a punishment equivalent to my crime. In the end, she just waved her hand, and took Olya by the shoulder and left, throwing gloomy words my way. We'll talk tomorrow. I managed to get the frame back in place, with a couple of hits pressed in the latches with all the strength my fingers could muster. The cold left the room, but the fear was still present. I placed my glasses on my nose and started studying my reflection in the window. It didn't look like a face, more like a death mask, just like the one worn by the boy from the notice board. That night, I was on the edge of joining him there. A black and white face was staring at me through the clearing between student heads. And it wasn't Vova. His face was right beside it. I recognized the fat cheeks, the damaged skin. Semyon. January 9th. Wearing a dark brown sheepskin coat, a beige scarf, a black mink hat, and Alaska boots. Barbarian's photo was printed out and placed under the glass, like an exhibition piece. You examined all the objects in episode 2. Alright. That's episode 2. Very interesting. So far, so there was a lot more in episode 2 than 3, or than 1. 1 was like an intro. I'm worried that episode 3 is going to be even longer, and 4 even longer than that. So, I guess we'll see. But yeah, interesting so far. I'm curious to see what happens with Polina, and then Elisa as well, and the garage in the woods that follows us. Well, before we get into the next chapter, I think I'm gonna grab You know what? Let's save here. Cool. Alright, I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab something real quick. Alright, we are back. Alright, so episode 3 is on end. The wolf's gray fur will stand. Interesting. So apparently I got 2 achievements. Let's go to the next one. He's the one who hated Bobberin. You think he did it? I've heard he's a weirdo. The warm farewells Ramka and Biasha shouted at the back of fleeing Semyon echoed inside my head. I'll cut your throat, you hear? Porky! Was Ramka serious about his threats? Would he chase his former friend deep into the forest and then what? Kill him? Just like that? No, that can't be right. I hurriedly rubbed my glasses. The glasses! Semyon was clutching them in his fist while trying to escape the barrage of kicks and slaps from his friends. Former friends by now. And in just a couple of hours, this lost item was lying on the ledge of my window. It was hard to imagine that Sioma suddenly got a guilty conscience and returned my glasses in such a strange way. I was shocked, but kept walking toward the classroom, accompanied by nasty whispers all around me. That photo still stood before my eyes. Semyon has gone missing. Semyon is gone? His fat fingers will never get to my throat. His signet ring won't smash into my chin. He'll never humiliate me again. Wasn't that what I wished for? On the other hand, did I really wish Semyon to become a murky stain on the notice board? He was still someone's son, or a grandson. He went through the same struggles as me. Did I really wish for my unseen companion to dispatch him in such a brutal fashion? I didn't know the answer. Or I was just scared of it. Nonetheless, school still had something nice about it. Polina, the girl with the violin, was like a mountain spring, like well water that you gulp down, pressing your lip against the zinc outer ring of a bucket. I can't ever get enough. What if I make her one of the characters in the story I'll draw? The protagonist will save her from terrifying monsters. As soon as I thought of monsters, a bunch of my classmates slid down the rails, smirking like the xenomorphs from the Alien. I immediately felt larvae of fear writhe in my stomach. I didn't want to cross paths with Ramka and Biasha after what happened yesterday, especially since Semyon was missing. I entered the classroom and went towards the last row. All of the chatter suddenly died down, so I walked there in complete silence. It felt like my classmates pushed and poked me with their stares. They carefully observed my every move. I stared at the desk with a huge pile of library books on top, my fists clenched. I felt like I was the one who disappeared in the snowy forest, and my desk was finally used for something worthwhile. Semyon's empty chair stood in front of me. The chair that once belonged to Vova gathered dust somewhere in another classroom. Sit down. I looked at the portraits of classical writers. My eye stopped on Essenin's photo. Last year I was tasked with learning any poem, and my dad suggested I learn one about the dog Jim, written by Essenin. I don't remember all the stanzas by now, but the last one was somehow deeply ingrained in my memory. I'm sure she'll come here in my absence. Please catch her eye. Go kiss her hand for me. For all my real or fancied errors asking forgiveness of her in humility. An old cheap slide projector. I called this model a tank because it looked like one. There was a time when I had a lot of cool fairy tales that we used to watch with Dad in complete darkness. I remember Little Raccoon and One Who Sits in the Pond, Kipling's Mowgli, and many others. I was immediately swept away by the memory of the projector hum, of its hot casing, of its bright rays hitting the wall, turning it into a screen. It's a pity that the school's slides were mostly about minerals and PSAs. Aha. Every boy my age knew I had something like this in his arsenal. Everybody my age I knew had something like this in his arsenal. Powder firecrackers that blow up with a very loud sound. Especially inside an archway. It's said that they're produced in China and that a single one of them can blow your fingers off if you light it up and clutch it in your hand. Especially the black Corsair type. They won't be enough to blow up plastic soldiers, but when it comes to stuff made of plaster, they should work. After a moment of hesitation, I sat down at Bobrin's desk, the place where I was supposed to be assigned by Lily Pavlovna at first. The chatter resumed as if someone just unpaused the movie.
Bobrin's grandma made such a fuss when he didn't return home. First she ran to the school, then she called the cops. Yes, da-da-da.
Katya snuck a cunning glance at me, then leaned into her neighbor and whispered something. Girls from the second row also leaned in. She shared something with them, too. Whispers, nods. I kept catching her stare on myself. Her neighbor stared, too. The whole class was watching me. It was like they felt the need to watch me because they were searching for traces of blood on my fingers. I wanted to defend myself and shout, "Guys, listen, I'm innocent." Ramka gave me a heavy, worried look. He was probably as stunned by Semyon's disappearance as everybody else. But then he directed his stare straight at my face. It felt like he was about to point his finger at me and shout at the top of his lungs, "Everyone, look! Barbrin snatched his glasses yesterday, and now he has them back. Murderer!" But he remained silent, as if there was nothing special at all about my glasses. I may be going mad, but I think Ramka knows something. He knows something, but he won't tell me what. But it was also possible he just didn't care at all, just like everyone else. I love you too, bud. Then Ramka shifted his eyebrows in suspicion and stared at Katya, as if informing her that he didn't believe a word she said. I wanted to believe that Ramka would take my side. And Biasha, who sprawled in his chair with his chin pressed against the table too. But they were silent. A terrifying thought flashed in my mind. Those two could easily betray me, push me off the cliff, just like they did with Semyon. As if looking for protection, I clutched the ruler until my hand hurt.
You don't have to be Columbo to solve this.
Кто на Бабурина зуб имел?
Who held a grudge against Barberin? Yeah.
Кто его вчера ударил? Выйди,
Who hit him yesterday? Bullied him and then... The metal ruler fell out of my weak fingers. It hit the floor with a jingle and that made the other kids shudder. Katya bit her tongue and squirmed nervously. Chairs scraped against the floor. My classmates moved away from me, closer to the exit, toward the teacher's desk. I was not the only one to catch wind of that change. Ramka and Biesha looked around and winced in contempt. It's good that they were clearly on my side.
прикусит.
Shut it.
Бабурин, небось, бабкой пофрался и дымил на.
I bet Barberin just got a whipping from his old hag and ran off. They'll find him soon.
Найдется. Ага.
They'll find him alright.
Со вспоротым
In a ravine with his stomach cut open. I gulped. I imagined Syoma on the snowy blanket, his face white like a fish belly, split down the middle by the crevice of his mouth, snowflakes falling on the glassy eyes and filling up his throat. See, I could almost hear his condescending tone, it's all your fault. Of course, Semyon did me a favor by disappearing. Thanks to him, my classmates now stared at me in awe. But that was only one side of the coin. What if I'll have to replay that favor soon? The door creaked open. Polina entered the classroom. I strained up in a hurry so she wouldn't see me looking like a scared critter. Polina found me with her eyes and gave me a short nod and went to her seat. Katya rushed to her neighbors again, like a lab rat that saw a treat, and started whispering, switching her gaze between me and Polina. Messages on pieces of paper started jumping across the classroom. The ringer's trill announced the start of the class. Alright, stop messing around. Class, stand up. You too, Petrov. Though Pavlovna went to her desk, followed by a policeman in uniform. It was the man that visited us just recently. Tall, his stare so sharp you could get cut on it. Him. Hello. Hello there, kids. You can sit down, kids. This is Senior Lieutenant Konstantin Vladimirovich Tikhonov. He's going to ask you a couple of questions and give you a small PSA. The class lined up. Talking to a policeman was way better than studying. I, on the other hand, was ready to sit through hundreds of hours of Russian literature just to escape the lieutenant's oppressive stare. His brown eyes felt around the classroom, looking for me. Hair stood on the back of my neck, and an icicle had lodged in my gut. Is it true that Barberin got killed by a serial killer? Shush, Ekaterina. Let the adults ask the questions here. We're all scared. Maybe the killer is somewhere close. Maybe they're even sitting among us. Her sly stare was directed at me. Tikhonov stepped in between the rows of desks and started walking at an excruciatingly slow pace, brushing his fingers against the chairs he passed by. Some of the students almost broke their necks following his movements. That's how a crowd of commoners would gleefully anticipate a public execution in the Middle Ages. And he just walked, getting closer and closer to me. I gritted my teeth to stop myself from screaming. Calm down. Breathe. You didn't kill or kidnap anyone. He already knew the answer to his question about the policeman stuff. Answer to his question, but the policeman still asked in a strained voice.
Petrov Anton?
Anton Petrov?
Да.
Da.
Стань, Петров.
Stand up, Petrov. My muscles turned to stone and I got up, unglued myself from the chair. I felt like I could hear all my joints creak in the process. I only wish that Polina wouldn't turn around and see the grimace of horror on my face. If only I could be somewhere far away, in the forest, digging myself into a snowy pile, rolling up into a ball there. The officer stared at me as if he was about to lock a pair of handcuffs on my wrists. I wonder how these bracelets... I wonder how cold these bracelets are to touch. I imagined myself getting jailed and put into a juvenile detention center, where tens of Semyons would constantly harass me.
Я тут ни при чем.
I don't know anything. I have nothing to do with this.
Никто и не обвиняет.
Nobody is accusing you of anything. For now. Only then I noticed a file that says case number in his hand. It had a gray cover made from a rough carton. It flopped onto the desk like a guillotine blade that slid down on someone's neck. With measured motion, Tikhonov opened the file and still studying me with his gaze. I caught a glimpse of documents and photos. They showed prints on the snow. They looked like animal
Ты с
prints.
Семеном Бабуриным общался?
Have you talked to Semyon Barbarin
Я знал
before?
его всего один день.
I only knew him for a day. Everyone knows that Petrov hated him. I turned red. You ugly bitch. I wanted to stick my teeth into Katya's face and chew out her cheek. Instead, I replied with the calmest voice I could muster.
Мы повздорили вчера.
We had a fight yesterday. We had a fight
Но
yesterday.
он первый начал.
But he started it,
Я его ударил.
so I hit him.
Сильно?
How hard did you hit him?
Так.
Not that hard. I mean... I waved my hand indecisively. Tikhonov looked at my fist as if he was surprised that I managed to hit the big kid from the photo. Surprisingly, Lilia Pavlovna came to my
Бабуля
rescue.
проблемный подросток. С шилом кое-где.
Barbarin's a troubled teen, a true pain in
Сам
the
ко всем
rear,
лез.
always picking fights with other kids. The officer replied with a meaningful nod and fished out a notebook out of the file.
Это твое?
Is this yours? I averted my gaze. It was a math notebook with my name on it. My classmates devoured me greedily with their eyes. It felt like even the writers on the portraits squinted at me in suspicion. Yes? We found
Там же
it in the
тракторист, что
forest.
снег убирал. В
In the
последний
area
раз
where the
видел
tractor
Бабурина.
driver who was plowing snow there last saw Barbarin. I stared, blinking in bewilderment. Ramka ransacked my school bag. This notebook probably just got lost somewhere in the bushes. The lieutenant knew about the school brawl, but was he aware of the fight in the forest clearing? I had witnesses that could testify that Semyon and I walked in different directions after that. I looked toward the boys, hopeful. Ramka, who sat behind Tikhonov, put a finger to his lips. And when the officer quickly turned around, he pretended to pick his nose. I deciphered his signal. Boys like Ramka would probably say something like snitches get stitches in a situation like this. I frantically fixed my glasses. Wait, Semyon took them away
Так
yesterday,
что ты
but
делал
now
вчера
they're...
в лесу, Антон?
So, what were you doing in the forest yesterday,
Я в школу
Anton?
через лес хожу.
I go to school through the
Могла
forest.
выпасть легко.
It could have easily fallen out of my bag. Easily, just like me producing this half-truth.
Будь осторожнее.
Be careful out there. Before I could realize whether it was a genuine piece of advice or a veiled threat, the teacher said, "Class, the officer will now tell you about some rules you should follow." So the killer does exist.
Пока мы ничего вам сказать не можем.
We can't make any of this public for now. Ramka swayed in his chair and gave me a thumbs up. Attaboy, good job keeping your trap shut. I nodded, even though I didn't feel like a shred of pride from his praise. After all, he was the one who threw my notebooks and textbooks into the snow. He was the one ordering Semyon despite changing his alliances
Но
later.
есть преступник или нет, вы должны
Whether the
четко
criminal
помнить о
really
собственной
exists or not, you
безопасности.
should be mindful of your safety.
Вас бережет милиция. Вас опекают родители и учителя. Но в первую очередь защищать себя должны вы сами.
The police, your parents, your teachers all watch over you, but no one guard you better than yourself.
Итак, кто там что хотел
Alright, questions? A stockade of arms rose from the desks. The kids shouted over each other, swarming the policeman with questions. In an attempt to calm down that chorus, he moved it toward the blackboard. The gray file was left laying in front of me. I stared at it, my breathing so ragged that I might have looked like someone who just ran a 100-meter sprint. Beads of sweat rolled down my back. I looked around the classroom. My classmates were catching officers' every word. The translation in this one isn't as good. Only Ramka was saying something to Biasha. Lena Pavlovna was staring into the window, fighting back yawns.
Комендантский час, причин пока нет. Слишком мало времени прошло с момента исчезновения вашего одноклассника.
As soon as I touched the... Oops. Alright, so we're gonna go back. Okay.
Он задаст.
Лучше лекция милиционера, чем уроки.
Петров,
Да. Встань. Я ничего не знаю. Я тут...
а тебя никто и не обвиняет. Ты
Я знаю. Все знают. Мы повздорили, но он первый. Я его ударил.
сильно?
Да нет.
Баб, сам как?
Это твой... Вы там... Так что
Я в школу могла вы...
будь осторожен.
Класс.
Па... Но вас бережь... Итак,
А у вас оружие с собой?
Here we go.
объявлять комен...
Let's save. Nobody paid me any mind, so I slowly opened the file. My fingers started sifting through the documents. Ksenia Talaleva, 6 years old, left her home sometime in December, identifying features okay. My heart almost jumped out from the ribcage. A round-faced girl no older than Olya smiled at me from the photo. The first victim of a serial killer? The first child to disappear in the forest without a trace?
I turned another page. Vladimir Matyukin, 10 years old. Vovo was the second. His mitten hanging from the branch, his name calling out by desperate adults and repeatedly by the sneering echo. Pavlovna coughed, trying to calm down the rowdy students. I yanked my hand away and the file closed.
Как известно, в наших лицах водятся волки, медведи, лисы. Людей они боятся.
Ah, he got me.
Поговорим о диких животных. Как известно, в наших лицах водятся волки, медведи, лисы. Людей они боятся и близко не подходят. Но бывают животные бешеные. Не бегите и не делайте резких движений. Если лиса крадется...
This guy.
Говорим о диких животных. Как известно, в наших лицах водятся волки, медведи, лисы. Людей они боятся и близко не подходят. Но бывают животные бешеные. Не бегите и не делайте резких движений. Если лиса крадется к вам, попытайтесь запрыгнуть по...
There we go. The officer turned his back to the class and started writing on the blackboard with a piece of chalk, producing nasty screeching sounds. Strangers. Almost everybody knows each other in the village, so the outsiders normally stand out. If you see a stranger... The officer started squeaking with a piece of chalk again, and after making sure nobody was watching me, opened the file and took out the photos that were hidden at the bottom. The artery-like roots, stumps, and charred pines cut down by lightning, and snow, lots of snow. Then a black building that immediately gave me the chills. It wasn't a crypt, it was a garage. A box made from steel standing amidst the thicket, judging by the trees all around it. Those black gates were almost sucking me in. I've already encountered this metal container that travels around the local area. Just yesterday, in fact. First Ramka told me about it. He said that the black garage was the culprit behind children going missing, as if it was a living being. And then I met with this abyss-colored building face to face in the middle of the thick forest. And the fox girl told me that Vovo was hiding there. My fingers trembled and the photo glided through the air back into the file. Thank God it landed upside down. That steel box was just too unsettling to look at. There was also a plastic bag at the bottom of the file, the type used to store evidence. I opened it, and inside it, a finger with a signet ring on it. It blinked and the mirage disappeared. Dissolved. Oh, it was just the signet ring. I couldn't see a cut off body part. There was only a signet ring inside. Stunned by the fleeting hallucinations, I almost felt like I was transported back to the forest and heard Semyon's words. I'll hit your face so fucking hard. The ring was giving off a faint glow on the top of my palm. I panicked and squeezed the evidence in my fist as if trying to assure myself it was real. I clanged my teeth from surprise, pushed myself into the back of my chair, blinking in bewilderment. The officer suddenly gathered the documents and gave me a stern look. Well, aren't you a curious boy, Petrov? I tried my best to squeeze out an apology and return the ring. but I only managed to hold out a clenched fist with a ring inside and started rumbling like Dad's car engine when it was started cold.
Как говорится,
You know what they
меньше
say.
знай, крепче спи.
Ignorance is bliss.
Вот,
Here. You got Semyon's signet ring. He went toward the blackboard without looking back while I was still clenching the stolen piece of evidence, thinking about Semyon. Nice. A boy that was already most likely dead. Let me say
Если
this
вы
again.
заметите в поселке
If you'll
кого-то
see anything
подозрительного,
suspicious in the
неважно,
village,
возле школы или на
be it
лесной
near the
тропинке,
school or the
сразу
forest
сообщайте
trail,
милицию.
contact the police
Телефон-то
immediately.
знаете?
You know our number, right?
Спасибо,
02.
ребята.
Thanks for
Спасибо,
listening, boys and
Лилия
girls.
Павловна.
Thank you, Lena Pavlovna.
Одноклассника
And,
вашего мы найдем.
You'll find your classmate. Yeah, right. A thought flashed through my mind. Dig through enough ditches and maybe you'll be able to piece them together like Legos. My thoughts turned evil for some reason and I couldn't control them. I tried to switch to the lieutenant's speech about suspicious individuals. What if I saw the killer before? What if I was a hair's breadth away from them? Suspicious people. How suspicious was the fox girl that wandered in the darkness? A weirdo that always appears out of nowhere and then dissolves into thin air with her riddles and rhymes. Could she really be the really harm the hulking Semyon? Should I tell the officer about her? What if lives of other kids depended on this? What if cute Ksnia and Vova too? Wait, what if I get mocked for speaking out? What if they'll start whispering behind my back, or what's even worse, think I'm insane? Ramka gave a stern look over the shoulder. I doubt someone like him would approve of cooperating with the police. Katya's braid dangled nervously behind the delinquent sitting in front of me. My hand was glued to the desk. Tikhonov was saying goodbye to Lilia Pavlovna. He was about to leave. It'll be too late soon. Alright, so we've got another decision to make. We're gonna keep it. No way. I've had enough of humiliation. I'll keep my head down like a bunny. I lock my fingers and zip my mouth. You avoided everyone's attention. Nice. I assume that there's another one for everyone's attention. You know what? Let's reload and give it to him. I unglued my palm from the tabletop. I need to warn him at the very least for Olia's sake to assure her safety in the house near the Squeaky Pines. Excuse me? Almost 24 heads turned my way. My teacher, the officer Polina, Katya shoved an elbow into her friend's side. Sleepy Biasha stretched out his neck. Ramka frowned inquiringly. I'm listening. I felt like I was being studied under a microscope. Yesterday, when I was walking to school in the morning, I saw an unfamiliar person. My classmates started whispering. Tikhonov frowned, a deep wrinkle adorning the space between his eyebrows. There's no way he'd be able to tell if it was an outsider or a local. He just moved to our village. The other kids smirked. Katya flashed an evil smile. Calm down. Can you describe them in more detail, Anton? Then it dawned on me. I can do more than describe them. What I can do... I can draw them. Sorry. I know how to draw, kind of. After spitting out this confession, I expected everybody to laugh, but that didn't help. It didn't happen, even Katya stayed silent. Polina tilted her head, studied me with an intrigued look on her face. I was pleased by this wave of attention. It made me feel bolder, so I asked, "Do you want me to?" Tikhonov slowly nodded.
Проведем следственный эксперимент.
We'll conduct a bit of experiment here, okay?
Пожалуйста.
Of course, of course. I took out a pen and flattened out a sheet of paper. My classmates stared at me in anticipation. Polina smiled, and it was the best reward I could get for my boldness.
Ну что, Ван Гог, рисуй.
Well, go on, Van Gogh, draw. Oh boy. Um. Let's do that one. I like that you can do a wolf. Oh, interesting. So we could do the wolf's face. Wasn't there a guy with a band-aid on his nose? Let's try that. There it is. This massive, cold, chiseled face. Squint in his eyes, sharp like a blade. I hesitated before handing my drawing to the
Вот,
officer.
примерно так.
It looks something like this.
Примерно? Да ведь
Look
он
at
один в
this.
один тот тип.
No, he looks exactly like our
Так вы
person
его
of
тоже
interest.
видели?
You saw him
Заячью
too?
губу. Видел
The
недавно возле
hair-lipped man.
поселка.
Yes, I saw him near the village.
Думал, он проездом. Давно
I
подался
thought he was
дальше,
just driving
гастролировать.
through and continued his journey a
Он
long time
выходит
ago.
здесь, отирается.
Well, apparently he's still snooping
Еще
around
рядом со
here.
школой стоял. И в лесу
I saw him
вечером.
standing near school and inside the forest during the evening. Tikhonov looked at me as if he saw me for the
Ну,
first time.
пацан. Ну,
What the lad.
молодец. Уже
You
хоть
have a
какая-то.
lead thanks to you now. He slapped my shoulder and I went toward the door. Then he stopped and called
Талантливый
out to
ты
me.
парень.
You're a talented
Тебя в
boy.
Академию художеств с руками
They'd
оторвут.
have to kill to have someone like you at the Academy of Arts. He left. The bell rang. Lilia Pavlovna marched past, giving me a curious look. My classmates went silent as if somebody lowered their volume using a remote. Nice. They followed me with their eyes the whole time I was passing between the rows, but something had changed about their gazes. Even Katya was different now. I remembered vividly how my dad once stood up for a war vet during a bus ride, subduing a bunch of drunkards. The other passengers back then had the same looks. The looks of respect.
Sorry,
Alexa,
I'm not
stop.
sure about that.
After going to the restroom and washing my face in cold water, I returned to the classroom. But as soon as I stepped through the doorway, somebody called my name in a cheerful voice. It was the girl sitting next to Katya. She smiled and offered me a Skittles candy. I mumbled words of gratitude in reply and accidentally swallowed the small candy as if it was one of Mom's pills. A happy shout came from the side.
Антон, а меня нарисуешь?
Can you draw me, Anton?
Антон, и меня, можно я?
Me too, draw me, draw me.
Можно меня нарисовать?
The shouts were coming from all directions now, so I pushed my back to the atlas, hanging on the wall, embarrassed. Did you learn to draw by yourself?
Ван Дамма нарисовать. Я дома как
Can
плакат
you
повешу.
draw Van Damme? I'll hang it in my room as a poster.
Я вообще-то первая
Hey,
спросила.
I was the first to ask him. Alright. So we're gonna save here, because I think it's time for bed. All right. So things are developing. Very interesting. So we'll see you folks next time for more of this game. Interested to see where this goes next. But yeah, very interesting so far. I'm a little tired, so we're gonna get going, but let's see if anybody is streaming so that we can, you know, hand it off to somebody. Let's see here. All right, we're gonna send you all to Faye Incarnate. Looks like she's doing art tonight. All right, folks. So we're gonna do a raid for anybody who is lurking. Thanks for being here. Be excellent, be well, be safe. Give Faye our big wombat welcome, and we'll see you next time. Good night.